Hello, my friends. Hello, my life warriors, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the Day In, Day Out podcast. Woo! Today on episode 312 slash 13. I've kind of lost my way, but that's another story. I have Sean Robinson on the podcast. Yes, Sean is an electrician, a firefighter, as well as an author. How are you today, sir? How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on your show. I'm excited to be here.
Ah, yeah, I have to ask. Like you have three distinct careers, plus you're a father as well. Who is Sean Robinson? Do you know?
For a long time, I thought I was that tough guy. An image and a reputation, if you will, to maintain, and until recently, I realized that while I was those things, I can do it a lot softer. I can be a lot better. So I think lately, I'm someone that's learning and realizing that the person I thought I wasn't defined. It was someone that I could mold into being a better version.
Mm. And before you sort of came to this sort of epiphanal moment in your life, what did you believe the person you were before that?
Well, I think just overall very stubborn.
Mm.
I think I just instead of acknowledging that maybe I was part of the problem, I kept telling myself this is just who I am. Quickly before I acknowledged that I could work on changing something or handle a situation differently, be it at work or with my kids or just myself. I was this is just who I am, and it was a hard stop that I didn't have to work on anything because I just kept telling myself that. So until I got over that thought or realized that that was very toxic, did I accept the kinds of things that maybe were the most beneficial for me.
Mm. That, so toxic. Didn't think you were the problem. When did you sort of like go, okay, you know what? There's something not quite right here with myself.
Well, I got to a point in my typical routine. I found myself 320 pounds. I was just feeling miserable, both mentally, physically. I was in this place with the construction and the firefighting and the tough masculine environments that I work in, where I just couldn't ask for help, or I didn't feel like I could ask for help, and I had to be a man and toughen up and fix it myself. And getting to that point of being the most upset with my weight, how I felt, it was like I knew I needed something to change, and
Mm.
thought I knew what I had to do, but just didn't know how to get started. And um, drinking alcohol and the snacking and everything that came with that environment for me, it just seemed like an easy first step. It seemed like something that I could just take the 30 days off, dry January, and be away from it long enough to get a bit healthier, lose some weight, and feel better. So reaching that point and deciding to stop drinking alcohol from a place of healthier lifestyle and feeling better and better habits, it was like the catalyst for change for me, that if I can go to these situations and parties and functions and deal with my buddies that were giving me such a hard time not drinking, if I can deal with these things, like maybe I can be a person that listens to podcasts and reads self-help and listens to self-help books and just speaks out about stopping the things that are holding you back, like the thing that was holding me back.
Mm. Yeah, like with regard, sort of connecting to your sort of book and everything like this, like, yes, alcohol is the one sort of, how can I say, like, es- escapist substance you can have, which is socially acceptable. If I
Hmm.
told you, let's go out and get some meth, or we're going to do meth in the park, yeah, they'll be kind of like, you're going to do what? And yeah,
Pardon?
police officer be like, you're going to do what? Yeah. But when it comes to drinking, it's one of those things which is, yeah, it's been around so long. It's that social lubricant. And look, trust me, living here in the UK, look, it's like yeah, there's four countries which are connected together under the United Kingdom, which do go a little bit hard at their drinking, to say
Yeah.
the least. So
Well,
yeah.
coming from Canada, I know we like to think we're big drinkers here as well. So it's definitely a situation and environment that's here also.
Mm,
Growing up, my parents were younger. They were 20 years old, married when they had me, and I'm the oldest of three boys, two younger brothers, and collectively we each knew how to mix a rye and coke or mixed drink when we were like 8 or 9 years old. So it was
that's what
fun, right?
kids
It
are
was
meant to
like
be used for, isn't it?
you're
It's
you're
like,
helping out. Yeah, but it
yeah.
was like that environment of having, it set up for me at a young age. It just led to my older years where I felt like I had a good example of how I was supposed to be. And then, yeah, with all the movies and videos and advertising and the marketing that the alcohol companies put out, it is definitely a social lubricant. But there's also like this pressure from, I think, just society to play the game and consume.
Mm. Yeah, I think it's also one of those things where when it comes to the old drink, depending which circles you're in, it's the way people help themselves to get comfortable in a sort of social circumstance where they might not be at their most comfortable as well.
Hmm.
That's sort of bridging that gap. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's tricky. It's tricky. So
it is. But one thing I found, a lot of that is just how we carry ourselves, right? I always thought I needed that drink or two to loosen up, but nobody else knows that that's what you need, or that might be what you need, right? That's us telling ourselves that. So if we change that to something else, and okay, you're not getting that, like, call it buzz from it, but if you have something else, right? Say it's just a drink of anything else, but
mm,
you're telling yourself, like, once I have this soda water, or once I have this Gatorade or whatever, I'm going to feel good in this scenario. It's like hyping yourself up without having to do it with drinks. It's like we socially tell ourselves you got to do a couple alcohol drinks to be better at whatever or be more loosened up. But really, we can program ourselves to do that. Nobody else knows what we need to be comfortable. Just we do.
mm. Very true. Very true. So when, like, I take it you went January, dry January, and you went with that as the beginning.
Yeah. So
How did you not fall into back into old patterns? Because I have witnessed it myself and I've experienced it myself. When you have to, how can I say, withdraw for something which, let's just say, can be damaging, but I won't lie. Some fun things have happened along the way. Yeah, to like, oh hey, you know what? That's the this is the problem, and yeah, I'm gonna
so
move on from that.
once I started to get into dry January, it
Mm,
was easy in the beginning because other people were doing it. Other people that had, heavy drinking routines through like the summer and all, we'll stop at the end of summer. All Christmas is coming, we'll stop at Christmas. It was like once January came around, there was other people that were taking a break. And
mm,
but by mid January, others around me were like, "What? You're still going? You made it. You made it a couple weeks. That's awesome." And I'm like, "Wait a minute. I didn't commit to 2 weeks. Like, I'm going to do this for the month." So as people started to fall
mm,
off, doing their dry January thing, and I didn't do it for these people, right? This was for me, but I just found in the process there was others around me that were doing it. I was the only one left by the end of January that in my circle that wasn't drinking, and I thought, like, I was starting to feel so much better. I'm not having any hangover mornings. I'm not, like, there was an element to not doing that for 30 days where I was like, I don't feel like I'm done. So there's dry February. It's the short month. I thought I could get through this next month. It's shorter than the last one. It would be easy. And it wasn't until about February that I started looking into other content. Like, I work 45 minutes to an hour drive each way from my house. And that commute I've always just filled with the same playlist music that I used to have. And I thought there's a better use of my time. And I didn't even know where to get started with podcasting and with audiobooks and everything else. And coming from a place of feeling like I had to fix it myself, not being able to ask for help, very like rough construction environment where we're not talking about any of this stuff. And if you do, you're then a caricature on the bathroom porta potty wall.
Hello. Yes, my friends, my life warriors, my apologies for that. My apologies to you, Sean. The problem, like, okay, I am ever trying to improve things for my podcast. And like with regards to Riverside, which I got, like we started this podcast with, it's meant to be a better program, but it's some like I've I've used it. I've done 4 podcast interviews with it so far. It's it's worked. When it works really well, and it gives a new level of functionality. But when it doesn't, it it really, really just me off. So yeah, yes, no, yeah. So let me apologize for that for to you, the audience, everyone for this. But we're back on good old Zoom, which let's just say it's not the best, but it's like the little engine that could just gets the job done.
That's
Yes,
right.
yeah. You like if I remember rightly, you before it went all like wonky, you mentioned you got through dry January and then you looked at February to get things like yeah.
Yep. So I was talking about getting through February
Mm,
with my commute to work, just feeling like I could use a bit better content and found myself looking into podcasts.
yeah.
Um, I started, just to back up a little, I started journaling through the end of 2020 into my harder, I don't want to call it, a ground zero, but basically for this journey, it was my turning point, my ground zero. So when I got to journaling and beating myself up, putting all these things in this place. Um, Through January, through February, it was kind of like a just a place for me to just brain dump and beat myself up and not share. But when I started to get into podcasts and School of Greatness and all of the self-help and development space, things that I didn't think I could do because of the background and the circles I have and the way I thought I was supposed to maintain, I was learning a lot more about habits and changing habits and timelines for lifestyle change and all these things. And this was huge for me because I wouldn't have picked this up anywhere else. It almost started this, this version where I just couldn't get enough of that content. So when I was getting through February, it was working on the 50-day mark, and I learned about 100 days. So as February neared an end, I was starting to feel better, and I was starting to get rid of a lot of the things that generational that my dad or my upbringing brought, different attitudes towards my kids and different my patience level. And I wasn't done by the end of February, so 100 days seemed like the new goal for me. So this whole time, I'm keeping track on my calendar. I'm circling the day. Every day that passed, I could get to the 30 days of January and the 28 days of February. And I was seeing this compound and I was seeing all these things. So when I started to learn about 100 days, I started to do so many other things. Like I was counting my days not drinking, but then I was like, oh, I could try this 100-day thing and a few other things. I didn't feel like I was brushing my teeth enough. So every day I'd in the morning check mark and the night check mark that I did it the twice a day. And I was seeing all these things counting up to this many days, drinking water, um, some version of exercise. And the 100-day mark, I was like, I can't be done with this. Like I feel great. My patience level, I'm not yelling at my kids, I'm not doing the things that I did before. So it became a challenge for me in this journaling to say, like, I've never been this many days since I was like 17 where I wasn't drinking. And how cool would it be to go an entire year? Like, I'll never do this again. And at the time, I think it was a break for me. And I'm still not drinking, but for the sake of what was my became my book and that part of the journey, it was still just a break. So how cool would it be to go an entire year without drinking alcohol? And after that, about that 100-day mark, that was the new goal, to go through all of 2021, 365 days alcohol free. And it was just getting to that point that kept me going. It was that goal, setting those goals, and learning later that when you look to reframe a habit, you need those small goals and small milestones. And I wouldn't have learned if I did not the person that I used to be in the form of podcasts and books.
Mm. Yeah, I do find it interesting because like this is the thing. What we tend to happen with most people, they will do the little steps or they'll set a goal and they won't do the little steps. It's not until you sort of combine both of those when like true success happens because like people are like, yes, I'm good. Like I like for example, I want to run a marathon. Now, like, okay, they'll do the training, but they might not set a date for the marathon, or it's like it's always going to be down the road, or they,
Someday.
yeah, or they won't do the training. They'll do the marathon, and you see the results of that, tears, pain, and grief. But yeah, but this is the thing. When you sort of like saw these little things happening, what would you say was the first sort of like mindset change you could either see or really pick up? You mentioned patience, but was there another thing?
I think I think there was a few things. Patience was a big one, but just accepting that we're all just trying to figure it out. And when I could see my kids getting, their impatience, or, certain small tasks, would they just get upset, school or
Mhm.
whatever they were doing. And I could see the things that I was picking up on. I could translate that through, hey, what about taking, let's go outside for a minute and play, and then we can come back to it. And a small version of what the things I was picking up on in these podcasts and these books translated to them. It was like, not only was I being more patient, but I was bringing something else. I was bringing the thing that I didn't feel I had, or that I wasn't allowing, just by trying different things. Because in the past, not that I'd let them get upset, but I just wouldn't have had the tools to be able to translate it the way that I did. And by not drinking and becoming this different person, and by being able to still, like, in my book, I set myself some early rules. I still wanted to have a good time. I still wanted to be involved. I didn't want to go to the 0% mocktail option, because I didn't want to just replace what I was doing with something similar, because I felt that would send me back to the habit and routine that I had. So just being open and trying new things was just as important as the patience with those things.
Mm. It must be very interesting because like this is like okay, we're all like when you are drinking and everything like this, you're one like we are one person. That's our representative of who we are at that present time. Not like to go from that to not drinking. Like now, this new representative, well, most probably your true representatives out there now mixing with other people who know your drinking side, but not so much your sober side, and the sort of like motivations and like yeah, basically social mixing might not necessarily work out. Did like how was like was it? It's challenging for you, but how was it challenging for others around you?
So it was definitely challenging. My social circles were used to the version of the person I was.
Hmm.
And I don't mean disrespect to addiction and that, but when in that moment they didn't understand that I was taking this break, or that I was not drinking anymore. So it would have been easier if that had been mandated on me somehow through either programs or through, legal, like, look, I'm fortunate, but if I had something behind me that said I can't drink anymore because the people around me might have understood the reason more than they did. But there was constant pressure from my circles to be like, oh, you made it. January's done. And oh, your 100 days, you're fine. And it was like for a while, no, the people around me didn't understand that this was just who I was now. I don't know how long I'm going to not drink for. And for now, I'm content not going back. But at the moment, like I didn't know I was going to go the full year. I didn't know I was going to continue beyond that. It was just trying to figure it out in these small goals, these small moments. A friend of mine, he's getting married, and he was in my wedding, and we drank a lot at my wedding. But he's getting married now, and he wanted me to be in his wedding. And every function, getting fitted for the suits and bachelor parties and all these things, every time he said, "You better drink at my wedding." It was fine that I wasn't at that moment, but he's like, "You'd better drink at my wedding," and it was very a lot of pressure for me because I didn't know that I was pretty sure I wasn't. By the time I'd committed to doing the full year, his wedding fell within that year, and I wasn't going to do it. But every function, you better drink at my wedding, and then different things would come up, and he's like, "Oh, right, it's not New Year's yet, so you can't have a drink." It was so much pressure from him and from other people, and until after that year, did they realize and start to come around and be more supportive. Like now I still have a lot of the same friends. Um, they will have 0% options because I've started to open up a little bit to have one every once in a while for those. Like that social lubricant, I think people feel awkward when you're not doing it. Another quick story, when I was at a restaurant, we were ordering drinks and everyone around the table was ordering, the biggest and brightest alcohol tequila things. And I wasn't drinking. I ordered a 0% whatever beer, and one of my friends that felt like he needed to explain it to the server. Oh, he's just taking a break. Like, well, man, I don't need that. You're not helping me. She doesn't care. It's
It's
just it was yeah, it was funny. Just people don't know how to deal with it in that moment because you're doing something different, but eventually, like I said, my circles, they came around, they get it. I don't listen to the stuff. The wedding was really difficult only because I felt, and it was me, I felt that I had to be there in that capacity because that's the way we used to be. That was the upbringing I had. And you're buying your rounds, and I still bought my rounds, but like I just wasn't drinking. I had to have something else. So it was like, and then at one time I went over to his house where we had some friends, and I brought a bottle of whiskey. I wasn't even drinking. I brought some soda waters or whatever I was doing as my substitute to try and get out of my habit routine. But I still brought a bottle over as a peace offering, so I didn't have to listen to them give me trouble.
mm.
And it worked. Who's going to give you a hard time when they're drinking their stuff? But
Like you see, you are the ideal drinking buddy. It's like going, what? Excuse me. Wait. Oh, you're gonna bring around a bowl? Thank you. Wait. Okay, we're in a bar. You're gonna still do your rounds? Thank you. And someone who's sober enough to drive. Excellent. It's like,
well, yes, on that note though, I didn't want. Not maybe not one of my rules, but I just didn't want to be that guy that's sitting in the corner, judging everybody, twisting my bottle of water around. So a lot of the times when would go to these bachelor parties or go to these functions, I didn't drive. I paid my share of the cabs and paid like rode in the Ubers or whatever we were doing because I just wanted to be one of the guys. I didn't want to be that person that's there because we used to be friends with them. I still wanted to play, but just because I wasn't getting loaded didn't mean that I was different. I just carried myself like I was like I was drinking these 0% or something, or putting a drinking pop or soda in a glass. Like people don't care what you're drinking. Like that was me. That was an internal thing. I felt for a while because it wasn't beer or it wasn't whatever that I was not playing the game properly. But people around us don't care. they want you involved, but it doesn't matter what you're drinking or what you're consuming. Just what that was in my head. That was what I did to myself.
Mm. Yeah, what I tend to find, people, you're right, people for the most part don't care. But this is the thing. Low key, they are watching and they are paying attention. They don't, it's like they might not care about your day to day, but they are low key paying attention to what you're doing. And now, with regards to getting off the alcohol and everything like this, it's like you're on this new voyage of discovery, this new journey of self-improvement. And there are going to be people who like, yeah, I'm like kind of watching you, like one to either see you fail and go, I see, told you, yeah, come back over here, give you a hug, and like sit down,
I'll come back.
yeah, have you drink, shut up. It's like don't do that again. Other people who like two other people which will be looking at going, if you can do it, Sean can do it, I can do it. And they've got some like thing they're wrestling with, and you know what I mean. And
Mhm.
and the third type, the real bad type, the ones which want you to stay the way you are because all it is they don't want their shortcomings highlighted on a sort of daily basis because you are sort of striving to go ahead and move yourself forward. Because look, in earlier in this podcast, you mentioned you weighed 320 pounds. You don't look like you weigh 320 pounds no more. Am I right in
No,
saying that?
that's right. I was down about 100 pounds in summer holidays. I'm about 85 pounds down from there. So 100 is my goal. That puts me about 225. And when I was 325, it was not comfortable. I had no energy for my kids. I was
Mhm.
more irritable because of how I felt in that moment. And um, it isn't it is it you can't think about I couldn't think about losing the 100 pounds. You have to think about losing just 1 pound, right? And losing 1 pound again. And eventually those numbers get up there to a point, and that's anything. It's 100 days or so not drinking. It's not 100 days, it's one day. And I know all the programs, a lot of the programs, they focus on this because that's how you do it, right? You break it down. But your examples of the kinds of people, I ran into all of that. And a lot of what kept me going to an earlier question is some of the people coming out of the woodwork that saw what I was doing. And in the early stages, when I wasn't talking about it because I couldn't have the attention on it because of how I felt about what I thought I should be doing, once I started to get through that year, and a friend was like, how is this going? And I was like, I could write a book. And I'd maintain this journal the whole time about how I felt in these moments, what I did or didn't do, and the anxiety about the wedding and all like these feelings. That journal by the end of that year was like I could put this out there for my old self. I could put that out there for someone like me who was trying to find this in podcast form and in audiobook form, for someone that was just looking to make a healthy change and dealing with the pressures, and putting that out there and then exposing that to the people in my circles. I was finding people come out and be like, wow, this is amazing, I need this. And like just seeing some of the stuff I post on my socials, and they're telling me, like even construction guys who I thought were maintaining that tough guy mentality beside me, were reaching out like, you need to keep doing this because you don't even know who's watching. And just having these people who I thought were the ones I was supposed to keep being tough around were saying like, you need, like, this is great, keep doing this, and giving me those affirmations. And while I wasn't doing it for them, it was important knowing that there was other people doing it around me that saw, even if I was the example and they did it because of me, or if they just maintained because of certain things, like it was very empowering to have that come out.
Mm. Yeah, because like this is the thing, when you put something positive out in the world, and I've said this before, you will send it out and where it goes, and you might not get any sort of feedback from it ever. But every now and then you get a whisper, like you mentioned, just like, yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
keep doing it, doing this. But if you said something negative or like you put anything negative out in the world, it comes back to you damn like immediately, like times three, times like times six, and you're like,
Yeah,
yes, you know about it, and yeah, it can lead to some pretty hair raising like situations online. Yeah, some mild abuse and maybe like yes, a cancellation possibility as well. In person, well, let's know how to bob and weave, duck and move, and possibly know how to get your running shoes on quite
that's
quick,
right.
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So with this, like if when okay, stop like I'm not drinking for the year, I'm getting fitter, and now look, you've been journaling. Now, with all the things you've got going on, look, being a volunteer fireman for 20 years, like yeah, being an electrician, like doing like going no alcohol for like yeah, for the whole year, being a father of three. Okay. Like where did you sort of like go, hey, the book? Because like it's one thing to put down a journal. It's another
Mhm.
thing to like put that into a book. It's not easy.
No, it's definitely not. My and it was just an expression. Like I've used that expression before. Oh, I could write a book. Just because there's so much about that moment where when my friend asked me, "How's it going?" Oh, I could write a book. Like it was like just there had been so much to that point, and when it got to a point where I actually did, because I wasn't through the year, that was like 10 months, 11 months. So I still had a month or two left and didn't feel like I was ready to reflect because I wanted to get to that goal. But when I decided to do that and to look into getting the manuscript done and finding someone to help publish, and I self-published but hired to for editing and stuff. But accepting that vulnerability and putting it out there was a huge decision because I not usually, or I felt like I was more introverted and not wanting that attention. But the more people I talked to and the more common the situation appeared to me, that like it wasn't unique that I was the only one going through that. A lot of the recipe was my version, but a lot of people were going through the same thing or of sorts. And to be a vulnerable person for the sake of someone else picking up a tactic or two or and felt more comfortable being vulnerable of, of what some or reflecting on their own situation to say like I'm going to take this break. And I started to host some workshops at the local mental health center and just speaking about this journey and about some of the tactics and having some exercises about decision making and consistency and habits and seeing how it was received was huge for me and having the book behind me to say this was me in my most vulnerable state. This was when I didn't have any idea and felt like I couldn't ask for help. And this is what I did to get through it was something I could use to, help someone else fix what they might want to fix if they could relate to what I was saying.
Hmm. Yeah, I think sometimes with regards to today's society, as much as we're all connected, I think there is a number of people which are basically dealing with things alone because that's sort of like, okay, I think many a person goes, I got lots of friends. I would say they've got lots of acquaintances than like sort of true blue friends, which can help them through some of the toughest times.
Mhm.
So when it's a case of they see someone like yourself or other people out there in society being that sort of beacon of light, which they're trying to get things that they're trying to sort out in their own lives, that's where they get drawn to you, like a moth to a light, going, yes, I need this, I need that support. And I think sometimes it can be quite surprising how many people are out there like going, yeah, can I help? Like, can you, like, yeah, I like what you're doing. Yeah, I need help with this. I need help with that. And you like you go, well, yeah, what about your closest friends? Yeah.
Yeah, they're the ones like, oh, come on, you're fine, right? Like the way it was for me. But the other thing too is a lot of the times maybe we don't realize we're on that path, or that what we're doing isn't productive because it's all we knew to be true.
Mm,
I don't think there was some examples that I had growing up and in, the work phases that I had with construction, and you're going every Friday night to drink with the boys, and you're not somebody if you don't have the hangover stories come Monday morning to talk about how your weekend was. And if I didn't know that I was not in a productive place because it's the only thing I knew, these avenues and the things I started to follow and the things I started to read started to teach me that maybe what I was doing wasn't the right path. Maybe the example that I had set for me from growing up and from my circles wasn't the best example. But I didn't know it or wouldn't have known it if I didn't reach outside that for some more information. So being a person like yourself and all the content you put out, even it's just being that image and that source for someone to say, this is happening to me too, or I can relate to that. And I didn't even realize that it wasn't productive. I didn't even realize that it was the wrong way. And I've been able to translate a lot of that, like back to my kids, like yelling. Who knew, right? It was what I had. It was if we weren't yelling in my house growing up, like we weren't talking. And obviously that's not productive. We're not going to get through to our kids. We're not going to get through to our spouses if we're just yelling all the time and upset all the time. And that's something I just had to figure out on my own.
mm. I would say a lot of it comes from we are so distracted in this sort of day and age. Basically, it's like you've got so much going on. Like, yes, okay, trust that. I've got I've got one baby girl, and that's distraction, and that you know what I mean. That is like a handful to deal with on a regular basis. Where plus with work and then basically sort of general life things, which are not necessarily the most important things. Before you know it, you're like, oh, okay, the day's been long. Let me just sit down, watch a little bit of TV, distract, switch off. And I think that's the running game for a lot of people. When people sort of like engage truly with their lives and stop being distracted, that's when like yeah they can start focusing on like new goals, tasks, taking care of themselves, get healthier, be more educated. It's just then, and when they get start bringing things together like that, it does affect not only their lives but the people around them, because like yeah, you know, when you put a bad apple next to a good apple,
Mhm.
it slowly takes down the good apple. But when you start doing that healing process, rather than being that bad apple, everything around you, a large, like definitely in your closest circles, like your family, uh, tend to improve. I think
Mhm.
that sort of is generally the path for most things. Like well, most people. It's just a case of they need to like just stop being distracted, which I feel you like, you know what I mean, stop doing that and start to get focused.
Yeah, definitely. And the way that it's been able to transfer,
Mm,
like all the content I'm listening to, like John Gordon's Energy Bus. If
yeah.
you're not familiar, my son, my middle child, has like some big anxieties, and there's some things we're trying with him. But when I listen to this Energy Bus, the audiobook, and I know he's got a kids version which we bought for him and read to him. Um, I brought home this greatest golf shot. It was the part of this book where it's, it doesn't matter how you are golfing, there's that one shot that brings you back. And we started to translate that at the dinner table at my house with my family, where we would talk about our favorite thing of the day. And these anxieties and, these pressures and just being upset, it was like, but let's pick that one thing out. And in the beginning, it was difficult because I had to coach it along and say, it doesn't matter. If there was something that made you smile today, let's talk about it. And the five of us would pick something. And, some days are tough because you have the most miserable day. But in my own coaching, back to that, I'm like, oh, there's one thing. So now, like my kids speaking on 10 or 12 things, and they list them off. Huge highlight now. And that's something that never would have happened in my old life. And just other things like that where I'm learning these tactics and I'm able to bring them home and be more patient and just not be masculine and tough and hide from it where I used to. Like there was no way I would have listened to it, enter a book like that and bring it home and have my kids start to do it.
Mm, mm. Like this is the thing, like with like yeah, talking to kids and getting that sort of message over, helping them sort of like overcome some of the, let's just say, when like when we were growing up, it was physically tougher, it much more tougher when we were growing up physically. Mentally, it's tougher for kids today on certain things because they get bombarded with so much information, so much data. It's a case of where do you truly sit amongst this world? And plus, like, yeah, if you were getting bullied, like back in the day, yeah, come 3:15, 3:30, you're out, and yeah, you get a good chunk of time to sort of like rest, recover, like maybe talk it over with somebody. Not so much these days. It can go on, and when they leave school, again and again and again, and you know what I mean. So there is mental challenges there for which I would say it's tougher for kids these days. And like yeah, sort of battling or taking on anxiety. Yeah, it's one of those things where if you're not sort of asking questions of yourself about, yeah, where your mental state is, it's a bit like when you're on an aircraft, when they go, yeah, put on your face mask first, like your like to get the oxygen like through so you can help others.
Yeah.
Because if you're just like trying to put that mask on them and you haven't dealt with anything yourself, it's like you can never truly reach them, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, because how are they going to absorb anything if they don't see you doing it first? Like
Mm,
I had to be the example. One, like, I was a lot of the problem, but to see me be the example and to now handle situations calmer and to give them more coaching into what to make a better decision or to do this thing at the dinner table and it got to a point it's at a point where if we have company over, that anxious middle child, he wants to hear everyone's favorite thing. Like he will go around to the entire table and there's 30 people at a birthday party,
mm,
like he coaches this thing out and it's been so uplifting for others. Like I know my wife has used that in her work meetings. She at the end of the meeting she's like, tell everybody, tell me your favorite thing, everybody favorite thing. And it was such a cool moment for her to start to do some of that stuff too. And another note I thought about, like a hangover period, something for me that I learned was, I know I always prided myself on being able to drink a lot or never be hungover and you not have a headache and I think one thing that I forgot or wasn't aware of was the hangover doesn't end at the headache. For me, the hangover was, even though I was proud and celebrated, whatever. It was like the hangover was days and weeks after that incident or that drinking night because I was miserable and irritable and impatient and no energy and upset and all these things that all stemmed around that one night drinking or those couple nights. And I didn't realize that that extension of that hangover was there. Like it was just maybe that was who I thought I was, but the clarity I got even after that first couple of months to 100 days of not drinking and not having those moments and finding that I can be more patient and I can work on these things. I didn't realize how the two were so combined or so close together.
mm. Yeah. No, I would say, yeah, hear you. I hear you. Because like this is the thing, when you go out drinking like this, yeah, even if you're like blessed with not being able to get a hangover or anything like that, it's one of those things, the sort of time and energy it sort of takes away from not your day, but your life with regards to like, oh yeah. It's like I've done all this drinking, I've done all of that. Mm. Have I had a like has it been constructive? Have I learned or gained from it? You might go, yeah. Some people are like, you had a good time with your friends and stuff like this, but you can go, right, could have been doing something else. Could have went for a hike. Could have went to like somewhere else. We could have watched film. Yeah, could have just sat down and just talked about what was going on. But we went out, got drunk, and had a good time. Did you? And yeah, maybe
Yeah,
push some things like further down, which should have been tackled a long time ago. And so, you know what I mean? You might like you're poisoning your spirit in some regards. And I look, I say this hand on heart. Like, look, you see me in my 20s and my 30s. Yes. Mm, yes, I would be hitting the town hard. And yes, like stumble, stagger wasn't like, yes, a fairly frequent routine on many a weekend. But you know what I mean? As time's gone by, alcohol's played less and less of a role in my life because I know what it sort of takes away from me trying to achieve certain things because that's the way it is. There is a cost. I don't get hangovers, but there is a cost regardless. I'm trying not to pay that, like paying that cost for something else which might be positive in my life or lead me in a better direction. That's where I'd like to invest my time, effort, energy, at resources as a whole, rather than sort of like, yeah, I've had
mhm.
I've had a great night out. Did I? Not all the time,
Yeah.
you know?
There's definitely times I forgot, and I think for me, like alcohol was such a like I would, you start with the end in mind, so but the alcohol was an automatic. So if I was camping, if I was going to a concert, it was like, how can the rest of the night be planned around this drinking? And I'd bring, usually camping and other places, I'd bring a lot more than I needed, and it'd be like a mission to get through it. But um, a lot of these moments, because of habitual and routines, and how alcohol was associated with these things, it was like learning how to ride a bike again in a lot of ways. How can I go to a live event or a live concert, or go to a wedding, or go camping, or any of the things I was used to doing with alcohol, and start doing it without it? And a lot of that was just trial and error. It wasn't a matter of bringing it just in case I wanted it, because I wasn't doing it. I was committed to keeping track, and getting to my 100 days and then the full year and beyond. But like putting something else in its place and bringing that with me camping, or doing this at a concert, or whatever. And once I found a few things that worked for me, substituting, or if I was camping, just having like a special mug, which I called my safety blanket, because I could pour whatever I wanted in there, and play the game by having the thing I'm sipping on like everybody else. And like just getting through those things and learning that I don't need it in those environments to have a good time. And then realizing that it was a lot more fun to remember the night. It was a lot more fun to like I've been to a few concerts that, like, I'm sure it was a great time, but I don't remember it. I had to look it up on YouTube later, the concert from that show, once somebody posted it, just so I could try to remember the evening. And I didn't get there. Like it just those moments, I'd much rather remember having a good time than feeling like garbage and not remembering and hoping I didn't do anything silly that embarrassed myself or hurt somebody.
Mm, yeah, I hear you. I hear you. So with this newfound clarity, like what like and well from clarity and well this new sort of realm of discovery of motivation for yourself, where would you like to take things? Because look, you are doing a lot now, but where would you like the direction of your journey to go down?
So right now, my my book, Going Dry, My Path to Overcoming Habitual Drinking, I've taken that, and I've got a going dry mindset, where that's my socials are all kind of based on that now. And it's not entirely about not drinking alcohol, even though that was something that was holding me back.
Hmm.
That going dry mindset, and what I'm trying to do is just encourage people to find what's been holding them back, if it's drinking or, whatever, and just realizing that you can let that go. You can find new habits, you can find new routines, and maybe letting that thing go that's holding you back, and that going dry mindset is your better purpose, is better for you. So while it's therapy for me to continue, and by posting the content and the videos and continuously learning, it's my hope that my old self, because all I can do is speak to who I used to be, is listening and seeing that and finding that inspiration to say, you know what, if he's doing that, I can do that too. Or, you know what, eating cookies every day isn't helping me maintain any kind of figure, and that's something I can get rid of. And just challenging themselves to get rid of that thing, to work on being a better person.
I see, I see. So with this, and like I'm gonna have to ask what your workout, like, yeah, your whole sort of fitness regime is in a moment. But like, yeah, with this and like, yeah, like that sort of going dry mindset at this present time, like, what would you like when people actually ask you about it on a day-to-day basis? How, like, what would they like? What would your old friends say changed about you compared to what you are today? Like,
I think my like cynicism and just negativity, that I used to be, is gone. I don't look for the negative in a situation. I'm looking for more productive and positive. Um, I think that's something that would be a big change. Um, I'm picking my battles now. Speaking to 20 years on the fire department, I'm not looking for certain moments to just cause a problem, um, by speaking up. It's being more strategic with offering advice, or um, whatever, changing policy. It's I think overall, the things that I've let go, and the extra patience and things that came immediate with it, it's definitely translating in other areas, and I think everybody else is picking up on that. And with work now, I'm in a more of a management role. Um, one, coming from the field and knowing, but taking those things and being more facilitating more to someone than preaching, is is something I've picked up in this process, and it's definitely helping.
would you say it's helped you become a leader a lot more, or just define what leadership might be to you?
I think leadership to me is giving the people around us the tools, or in inviting the tools to make them more successful, and in their success and in their advancement, you will succeed. I think i think the leader that empowers the people around them is more important than the leader that searches that for themselves only. You're only as successful as your team and the people that you are around.
Yo, there you go. Now, yeah. So with this, now 320 pounds to like, yeah, 225. How? How did you get how did you get started on that?
um Well, just like anything else I've worked on, and it was a lot. I didn't anticipate that I'd be able to get there, but that was where this journey started. Was just needing to do things for me that were healthier, to be someone that lost that weight, and learning like the habits and James Clear Atomic Habits. Um, one question he said was, you need to ask yourself better questions. So instead of um, I'm this 300-pound person, it's, ask yourself, what would a healthy person do? Would a healthy person eat a box of donuts? Would a healthy person not go for a walk? So by asking myself better questions, I was more able to turn down the snacks and things. And so on top of that, I started doing more research on fasting. So I try to, stop eating at a certain point in the evening, and then do what I can to get to lunchtime. I seem to have been able to confidently, without starving myself, because you have those hunger pains through your habits and routines, but you think you're hungry, but it's just your body's telling you you need it because it's used to getting it. So I stop eating, by 7 or 8 o'clock at night, and then not until hopefully noon the next day, just water. So a form of fasting, and then not beating myself up if I feel like it's 9 o'clock and or it's the weekend and I'm having breakfast with my family, then I'll do that. If it's, there's a function at work and I'm not gonna hold myself back. It's, still participate, but then just do it the next day. Or so fasting, workout. I'm trying to build on this, but it's just making sure I do something every day. So walking 2 kilometers is my current. I try to make sure I do that anyways. And the thing I found with that exercise and that regime was it was very hard for me to just even go for that walk. And part of Atomic Habits, don't stress about going for the walk. Just put your shoes on, right? Get used to putting your shoes on. Get used to even just setting your clothes out, or just drive to the gym. You don't even have to go in the gym. Just park in the parking lot and then leave. And then once you start these small things, and once I started these small things, I put my shoes on. Well, now you have your shoes on, or now you're parked at the gym. Why don't you go in and look around? So you start to go in and look around, and then you leave, and then eventually you're building up to a point where, well, I'm already here, I'm already in the building, I'm already on the machine, I've already done 10 minutes. What's another 20 minutes? And you start building, and I've done that with everything that I try and do. I set a goal to do one sit up every night. I wanted to do one sit up. I think I'm about 100 days actually of 50 sit ups every night before bed.
Outstanding.
And it didn't start by doing the 50. I just needed to sit there in the position and do one. And I've, that's how I've been able to do it, is, fasting, trying to eliminate as much sugar as I can, and just piecing together some version of a workout based on what I can learn, because I don't come from a very fitness background, and just maintain it that way.
Mm, I like it. I like it a lot because, like, this is the thing. Like you mentioned, Atomic Habits. Good book, very good book. Now, what too many people fall into the trap of, like, they go, yeah, you know what, I'm gonna break this, and they go out so gun ho, like all engine, all systems go, and it's kind of like they're pulling against an elastic band or a bungee cord because they'll go so far. They'll get doesn't quite hit where they expect it to be because, like, with the realm of like getting back into shape, it never no, human body is a tricky thing because what happens one week, yes, you'll lose a lot of weight and then your body adjusts and goes, no. It's like, no, I've adjusted to this quote unquote new normal. Sod ya.
Yeah.
So it doesn't go your way. And they immediately get snapped back in their own routines when it should be like, okay, should take a little file to that Bundy core, little bit by little bit, just like, and that move a little bit along, still finding a way, move a little bit along, still finding a way. So one day you got through the cord and it snaps and you're left in this sort of new realm and this new position of, okay, yeah, you started with one like sit up a day,
Mhm.
doing 50 on currently in day 100. Like, well done to you, sir. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's a huge percentage of the population which you go one sit up, two sit ups, like 50 sit ups. No.
and
Like,
and it's and it's building to that, right? And like keeping track on the calendar, like I said earlier, I worked on so many things, and I'm still doing that, and I think I will always now. But all the circles and squares and check marks and boxes and all these things, all this little code I've got on my calendar, it's an absolute mess, right? If someone sees it and I don't feel like talking about it, because it's right in the garage where we walk through to come in out of the house, it's right there where I see it every single day. If I don't want to talk about it, then I can say whatever I want about those things. What are you working on? Oh, the squares or this and that, or I don't know, whatever. Only I know what it means. So in my most vulnerable and unsure state in the beginning, especially, I didn't have to talk about what I was working on because no one knew. And now it's just I know what all these things are because I've changed what I'm working on. But um, a part of the where was I? So keeping track of it.
what you're
Um,
working on.
um, so the sit-ups, doing one and building on it, it was difficult to do one. And now there's days where I don't like I'm it's bedtime and I haven't done it, but I know I have to because I don't want to lose that day. I don't want to wake up tomorrow and realize that I was at day 99 or I was at whatever and didn't get it done. So I'll go out even right before bedtime and do it. And the 50 sit-ups that it is now, um, just do one.
Hmm. Yeah. Like like the other secret I think people don't actually get told. Like real change is boring and mundane. It's not exciting. It doesn't come like it does. It's not like, oh yeah, no. It's just yeah.
Oh, I know you're right. I know what I was gonna say. So Ed Milet was talking about a pinata,
Oh
and
yeah.
this was a great analogy for me because to your comment, it doesn't happen at all in a hurry. And to think about 100 pounds or whatever version of that is for someone, it's stressful. And yeah, you fall right off. You go back to do your lifestyle before because it didn't work for me. But just like that pinata, you don't know when it's going to break. And every hit, every swat that goes could be the one that does it, but you don't know until after. So a lot of what keeps me going and doing those sit-ups or going for that walk, getting that tour in is that pinata thought where this could be the hit that I take that makes the difference. This could be the night where I do these sit-ups before bed, even though I really don't want to, that I look back and say that was the moment. And I translate that pinata theory to most of these things I'm working on because it's one more hit. Do that one more hit and maybe it breaks.
Mm. Yes, it's just making sure you come back consistently and doing those hits. Yeah, because there are too many people which like yeah, consistency is one of the most powerful things in the universe. Like you go, how so? Like, yeah, you do consistent bad things, like it builds and builds and builds. And yes, the results of all your bad things will accumulate quite quickly, like compound over a course of time. Yeah, and every now and then, like you doing bad things, yes, something good will come out of it, but that's not the general rule of thumb. But also,
Yeah.
if you consistently do good things, like yes, working out, like yes, saving money, yes, like reading books and everything like this, yes, it will compound and compound and compound. And yeah, yeah, every now and then something bad will happen, but generally you'll get like good things come out of it. And I think people don't forget the power of consistency because look, you think about okay, most people when they're not living their healthiest lives, and like yeah, it's a case of you don't realize it, but like on stealth mode, you've consistently done the wrong things, you've eaten the wrong foods, you've like just sort of like led a sedentary lifestyle when you could be out and about doing more things.
Mhm.
But you go, okay, you have this moment of clarity, like sort of 10, 20 years down the line, man, you're like, oh, look, have a good look at yourself and go, what the hell happened to me? You know?
Yep, yep. And that was me realizing I was 320 pounds and, not healthy and not sure how to fix it. And
Mm,
we think about the big picture. We're thinking about losing that 100 pounds, or we think about reading 100 books, and all of those big milestones are massive, and you can get there. But we can't think about that. That has to be maybe the end game, but one at a time,
mm,
or
mm.
a couple pages at a time, or just put your shoes on.
Yeah. No, it's simple when you say it like that. Some people just like the execution. They do. Like, hey,
Yeah.
um, if I like, if I was to say, yeah, you could be like, you can achieve like one of three goals in the next 5 years, which goal would you like? Which sort of goal is primary to you? I mentioned like, yeah, where would you like your journey to go? Like, go. And that can be fluffy, but without a goal, you cannot achieve like your true target or your dream.
I I think we have to have goals and we have to celebrate them. We have to, even for me, when I got to the 100 days and the full year, I didn't know, what do you do to celebrate? You can't go have a drink, and it's like, it doesn't have to be stressful to find out how we celebrate. It can be anything, going for that walk might be that new thing you want to do. But for me, my goals the next 5 years, my biggest one I think would just be to keep going on this, keep building this, and I would like to get into doing more public speaking about it. I think there's an audience that I can reach out to that would be more interested in the workshops that I'm creating, and would benefit from, more of a workshop environment. So I think in the next bit, I'd like to build to a point where I'm doing more public event,
Yeah, I see.
even if it's just a circle of 6 people or something. It doesn't have to be big. Just I want to build more confidence to get doing that.
Hey, come on now. Like, yes, a small seed grow like is planted and mighty redwoods grow. So you know what I mean? It's you have
Yeah.
to start somewhere, you know. So with regards to that, like getting out there, public speaking, like are you going to be like doing Toastmasters or just doing free gigs in the beginning, or like how do you think you're gonna get there?
I think these events I'm doing with the mental health unit and just those workshops, sharing the story, the things that worked, and translating that into um, that version. The fire department that I've been on that long, I've been a trainer, so I've taken a lot of the facilitating courses and a lot of the getting your groups to find the answer you want them to find, rather than read it to them, because it's better to they'll learn it better if they were part of getting to that point. So I think Toastmasters is definitely something I want to get into to build that speaking capacity. So that's something that I've considered, and just building on what I've got as a foundation already with that firefighter training experience, and with what I've done with this book, and these podcasts, and the content that I create on my own YouTube and my own social pages. It's just, I think, taking that one step with that and building every day small parts and pieces, the way that I talk about any other habits and the things I've been able to do. Hit that pinata a couple more times and eventually it'll break.
Liking it, liking it. No, no. In that pinata one more time. Yeah. Now, final question. Final question for the day. Now, I have to reveal I am a being of supreme cosmic power. Yes. Now, I can grant you one wish only. And before you ask for like, I wish for unlimited wishes. Yeah. I wish like write down everything on a piece of paper. Go, I wish everything can come true on this piece of paper. No, 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 no. And yeah, you can't be wishing for world peace or a cure for COVID because look, I had to call on some dark powers just to get a little vaccine out there. That was like far too much trouble. Now, what would your one wish be?
I think uh, my one wish would be that I can give my kids the tools and the information that I didn't have or that I didn't feel that I had to make better decisions than what I made. I think I my wish would be if I that I can help give get rid of the generational trauma that I might have behind me and give them a better chance at being better to themselves and to the people around them.
Hey, okay, okay. I shall see what I can do about that. Yeah, like might have to force them to go on some more bike rides with dad and stuff like this. While one's been drawn along in a small, like, yeah, carriage. But that's another story. Yeah,
Yeah.
can do. See what I can do. Ah, Sean, I got to say thank you for coming on today. Technical issues aside and everything like that, it's been a delight talking to you. Yeah, love to do it again in the future. Hey, never know. Face to face, maybe. Who knows?
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank
Yes.
you very much.
Oh, no worries, no worries. Can you tell the lovely people out there how they can find you out on these interwebs?
Okay, my website, seanrobinson.ca, SeanRobinson.ca. I'm on YouTube at Going Dry and Facebook Going Dry, Instagram is Going dot dry. Very, very common theme there. It's all linked on my website. My email, there's a contact link there as well. And LinkedIn, Sean Robinson on LinkedIn, and not on TikTok or anything yet, but I keep picking away on these things. Maybe that'll happen.
Hey, excellent, excellent. Ah, yes. Thank you, Sean. And I'd like to say thank you to you, my friends, my life warriors, for sticking with us all the way to the end. Ah, please stay safe, stay well, be awesome, be excellent, be fantastic. Be all the positive bees you can be in this world and then some. And yes, stay dry. Oh, yeah. And we are.